Good morning and welcome to Morning Java here on DKPittsburghSports.com. I'm Chris Carter here with Dale Lolley, and it's a wonderful Wednesday because the Penguins are playing the Flyers as usual. We're starting off with hockey a little bit different, of course, today, Dale. Penguins up 2-1, but while they're missing Patrick Hornquist on their end, it looks like there's some questions as if the Flyers are going to be missing Sean Couturier on their side. Could be an interesting game without two key players on both sides missing.
Okay.
What happened is playoffs.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. As long as Sidney Crosby plays,
that's what
the Penguins are going to win the
like.
game. It's just going to happen.
Can we get a prediction?
My question is the hit that happened in the Philadelphia practice session. Is the league going to look into that? Because apparently, if you collide on the ice with somebody, the league should look at it and suspend somebody. That's what I heard about the Claude Giroux action. I mean, the collision. It's a collision. It's hockey. It happens in sports. Sometimes guys accidentally collide, and people want to suspend the guy for that. Come on, Pittsburgh. Get a grip. The Penguins are going to win this series, whether Claude Giroux backhands somebody with a stick or not. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter because the Penguins are going to win the series. Quit crying just because they lost the game. Get your heads on straight. Focus. And get on to the next series.
Dang, Dale just hits you with the realness. There you go. In Pirates news, the Pirates got some rough news about Josh Harrison. He's been lost for about 6 weeks with another broken hand issue. He says it's the same exact bone on the same exact hand. He took a pitch on the inside. You know, we saw last year Josh Harrison got hit with a ton of pitches.
Yeah, I think it was 26.
Yeah,
most in the league.
And, I get that he's playing close to the plate, but. Then you had Ivan Nova. He threw at their guy. The next inning, I think it was.
First pitch.
What
are you supposed to do it?
Send the message.
As they say. Hey, you're not going to get away with hitting our guys.
Dale, with Adam Frazier bumping up, what do you think this is going to do to the chemistry of this team? Because Josh Harris has become, seems like one of those central guys for this organization.
Well,
right now.
the first thing that it does is it takes away the leadoff spark. I mean, Josh Harrison. Isn't going to be a 330 hitter. He's not going to be a 30 home run guy, a 20 home run guy, but he's the spark plug at the top of the lineup. Mm-hmm. Now, Adam Frazier can replace some of that in terms of the batting average and stuff. He should be okay. His batting average has dipped down to the low 200s right now, but he should get going, and they should be fine there. Defensively, he's not as good as Josh Harrison.
Right.
And the other thing that does is it weakens your bench. Mm-hmm. They can't now afford another injury somewhere else. Mm-hmm. They had to bring up Max Moroff to replace Harrison on the roster.
We'll get our subscribers started on Max Moroff.
Yeah, so you've already weakened the bench. Now you've got a guy who is probably nothing better than a AAA player. Playing, he's not playing every day, but that's on your bench.
Yeah.
When they went into this season, they had a pretty decent bench.
Yeah.
They had that's the one area that they had really upgraded this year, but now that depth is going to be tested. And, talking to Clint Hurdle on Monday, I had a chance to cover the game on Monday for Lance. Mm-hmm. He said, look, we expected somebody was going to get hurt during the year. It's just not realistic to expect that not to happen at some point. What they can't afford to happen now is for it to be several guys going down at the same time. I think they can kind of weather the storm here, even though it hurts not having Harrison. But you can't afford for example, Gregory Polanco to start having hamstring issues again or something like that.
That'd be nasty.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I mean, 6 weeks is a month and a half. That gets you into what, June? That they're going to probably expect Harrison back. That's rough to deal with. But I guess, like you said, the big thing is that Polanco still can come through. If Polanco, Bell, Marte, and that group of guys, especially if Corey Dickerson continues to show that there's a good reason they brought him in, Colin Moran's added to the lineup. I think that there's still guys on there that can make this hitting machine.
Yeah, they'll still hit.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, the defense isn't going to be as good. And again, you lose that spark.
Yeah.
That guy who gets on base and just drives pitchers nuts. Mm-hmm. You lose that.
And fires up your clubhouse. He's like, okay, well, he's doing it. Let's go back him up.
Yep.
So I think it's a big move. In other news, moving into Steelers world, of course, the upcoming visits for the draft are about to end for the Steelers. Dale, it's kind of interesting. They, reportedly they haven't used all of their visits, which seems kind of unlike an organization that needs to make some moves in this NFL draft. But do you think there's something that's going to surprise everyone with the people they've brought in that when they announce after all this is done?
Well, now you say that there have been reports that they're not going to use or haven't used all 30 of their visits.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are reported.
Right.
They sneak guys in every once in a while that you don't know anything about. Like they brought in Leighton Vander Esch on a Saturday when they knew no reporters were going to be there. They brought in Justin Reed on Tuesday.
Get out of here.
That wasn't reported.
Okay.
So, they bring guys in just because. The reason they bring guys in many times, maybe somebody who wasn't at the combine that they didn't get a chance to talk to, or they didn't get to go to that pro day. So they bring them in to get the medicals on them and sit down with the kid. The other thing are the local visits. You get unlimited local visits.
Right, you can bring whoever you want.
With whoever you want in on the local visits, and then you get the guys that you're actually interested in. Now, some of those cross over. There may be some local guys you're interested in. There may be some guys who have some medical interests issues that you're also interested in. But you also bring in those guys that you have a legitimate interest in. You want to sit them down again and talk to them. But they do they visit the pro days. They talk to these guys at the combine.
Yeah, there's tons of other things.
There's a lot of places. By the time they get done with their draft stuff, they've talked to between 120 and 150 different kids. So they have a pretty good idea of who they're going to draft. You can, if you use the tea leaves, typically there's, of those guys that they bring in, the 30 visitors,
that's where you'll
typically there's at least 2 or 3 of those guys that they end up drafting. Now, which guys remains to be seen. I mean, it could be some late round guys, could be some early guys. Typically, it's been those mid to late guys. They haven't really brought in a ton of their
top guys.
Their top guys on those 30 visits.
That's
so we'll see how it works out this year. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They try to mix it up a little bit and keep everybody guessing.
Well, I think that's what you got to do as an organization. You never want to just tell everyone, "Hey, this is who we're looking at." Otherwise, then
you're not electing a pope here. We don't want smoke signals coming up from the building.
No, exactly. Like you got situations where people thought that a few years ago the Bengals drafted William Jackson III just to take him away from the Steelers when they had like 3 first-round draft pick corners on their roster already. So I definitely see the point there. It's going to be interesting, I think, just because with all the different needs that people are pointing at on defense and the things they could do on offense, the Steelers are in a position where they can keep that murkiness and not reveal who they're really going after until the day of.
I'll tell you what, Chris, in the next segment,
what's up?
Let's talk a little more draft, and we'll talk about our dark horse picks.
There you go. All right, Dale, you told everyone we got some interesting dark horse conversation. Who is nobody talking about that the Steelers might pick in their first round at 28?
Well, I'm not going to necessarily go with a who, but I'm going to tell you some positions.
Okay.
I think one is interior line.
Get out of here.
I think there's good value there this year. I think it's a deep interior line class. I think you can get a quality player at 28.
You think Billy Price, or you're thinking Isaiah Wynn? Or?
Yeah, Isaiah Wynn would be an ideal guy.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's a guy that's a butt kicker. He and Hernandez
kicked a lot. Both of them kicked a lot of butt.
Those are 2 tough guys. That, man, if you plug those guys into your line, you bring in some youth. You bring in, Wynn's pulling ability is.
Yeah, as a tackle, Georgia was using this man. If you go back and watch when they beat Oklahoma in the playoffs this year, he would just mow people over, and
he's like a running back. He's like a fullback getting down the field.
Just getting down the field, and how big he was. He just swallowed people. It was like, I totally agree with you. I think that there's a lot of merit to them going and getting him, because Ramon Foster, his contract is up, B.J. Finney's contract is up, and both of them, Foster's older, and Ben Finney, I think, is going to command some kind of like Chris Hubbard type of deal.
The thing with Finney, and I like Finney as a player. I think he's a good player. I think he's developed well. But if he's in your starting lineup, now you need a guy who's that swing guard center guy on the interior backing him up. Where do you find that? Well, you can't continue. You can't continue to just expect Mike Munchak to piece those things together and bring in another. Who's the next undrafted guy we're going to develop there? At some point, you got to start replacing your high draft picks with high draft picks.
Yeah.
And so that to me, I think because of the value of those guards, there's probably, I want to say, 5 or 6 interior linemen this year that are kind of first-round worthy type guys. And so if some of those other players are off the board and you want to take a nice safe pick, these are safe picks too. These guys are going to be starters for your team for 10 years.
Yeah.
You could go that route and certainly fill a need not only this year but next year.
And to more to your point, Marquise Pouncey has said he said before, I'm here as long as Ben Roethlisberger is here, which we know might not be that much longer. So I think that there's a lot of merit to picking that. That's why I mentioned Billy Price.
I mean, that whole interior line. I mean, you start looking at it; those guys are all starting to turn 30 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I know DeCastro might be there, but Pouncey, I mean, he's had several injuries. He's been around the longest of all. He was the first of this new generation of linemen. I mean, other than Foster, but he wasn't a high pick. He was undrafted and brought in. I think there's a lot of merit to that. I think that that's why I said Billy Price might be the guy, because he played center at Ohio State and he can move to guard, and he's a top pick. He could eventually become that new center.
I like James Daniels too.
James Daniels is a nice guy. My dark horse area is at wide receiver. I think that they're still big on, we need to up our weapons. We need to find the guy that's going to replace Martavis Bryant, because we're not so sure we're going to sign him. And I think somewhere in Kevin Colbert's mind is, if all the linebackers are gone, this is why I have a dark horse. If all the linebackers are gone and all the safeties are gone, that I think are first round worthy, and there's no quarterback that I feel comfortable taking, let me get the best playmaker on the board. And if you get another receiver, say a Christian Kirk from Texas A&M, or Equanimeous St. Brown. Thank you. Yes. I was going to mess that name up. I knew it. I practiced it coming here.
I believe he was in the Peel and Key video. You haven't seen that one.
It was D-Nice.
Equanimeous St. Brown.
That ain't your name. But all jokes aside, I think players like that, the Steelers could look at and say, look, we have Antonio Brown. We know he's here for sure. We have Juju Smith-Schuster. We like having 3 playmaker wide receivers. And this way, if Martavis Bryant doesn't work out, you can move him on and make plays like that. So that's why my dark horse is at playmaker positions on the offense.